The moment the officer's hand clamped around his wrist, Dr. Marcus Hale knew two things instantly. One, he was about to miss his flight. And two, he was about to become someone's afternoon entertainment. "Empty your pockets, sir," the officer barked, his voice sharp enough to slice through the hum of boarding announcements. Marcus didn't move right away. He had learned after decades of walking into rooms where his skin entered before his name, that hesitation could be a form of dignity. Still, he could feel the eyes on him. Dozens of them. Some curious, some pitying, some eager, like they were about to watch a street magician pull a rabbit out of a hat, except the hat was him. And the rabbit was humiliation. The airport terminal seemed to shrink, the ceiling pressing lower, the noise flattening into a muffled buzz. He noticed a little girl clutching her mother's hand, staring with wide, uncertain eyes. He almost wanted to tell her it was okay, that this was just what happened sometimes. But he didn't want to lie to a child. The Afikara broad-shouldered man with a badge that gleamed like it had been polished for intimidation tightened his grip. "I said, empty your pockets." Marcus inhaled, slow and measured, the way he did before telling a family their loved one didn't make it through the night. "And I'm asking," he said evenly, "what exactly am I being accused of?" The man's mirrored sunglasses reflected back Marcus's own face, calm, unblinking, betraying none of the irritation pounding beneath his ribs. "We've had reports of a suspicious person matching your description loitering near the international gates." Marcus almost laughed. Matching your description. He'd heard that one before. It was amazing how elastic those three words could be. Sometimes they stretched to fit a hoodie-wearing teenager on a street corner. Sometimes they shrank to fit a Harvard-educated surgeon on his way to a medical conference. "Sir, I just cleared security," Marcus said, gesturing with his free hand toward the boarding pass sticking out of his jacket pocket. "I'm heading to gate 27. The officer didn't even glance at it. "Step over here, please." By now, the phones were out. Screens glowing, lenses blinking. Marcus wondered how he would look later, cropped into a shaky vertical video on someone's social feed. Angry? Resisting? Defiant? The truth that he was simply standing, not moving, letting the tide hit him never made for good content. A second officer approached, younger, less certain, but still radiating that quiet confidence of someone who knew the system bent in his favor. "Want me to cuff him?" the rookie asked. Marcus caught the flicker of a smile at the corner of the older officer's mouth. "Not yet," he said. "Let's see what he's hiding first." The search was slow, deliberate, invasive. His phone, his wallet, a pen engraved with his initials. The old stethoscope he carried everywhere, not because he needed it for the conference, but because habits die harder than people think. The rookie turned it over in his hands. "You a doctor or something?" Marcus didn't answer. The older officer spoke for him. "Sure he is." The words dripped sarcasm like oil onto concrete. That was when Marcus felt the heat rising in his chest, that dangerous combination of humiliation and memory. He remembered being 12, riding his bike home, when a police cruiser slowed beside him. He remembered the officer's voice telling him to keep those hands where I can see them. He remembered how his legs shook so badly he could barely pedal afterward. And now, decades later, here he was, still under someone's thumb for the same unspoken reason. A man in a business suit stepped closer. "Hey, is this necessary?" he asked. The officer didn't even look at him. "Mind your business." Marcus looked past them, toward gate 27. The boarding line was shrinking. Soon, the door would close. And still, part of him wasn't worried about the flight. Part of him was curious, morbidly so, about how far they were willing to take this. The older officer finally pulled the last item from Marcus's inside jacket pocket. It was a small velvet case, deep blue, with a golden clasp. He popped it open with one thumb. For a moment, the man's posture faltered. Inside, cushioned in dark satin, gleamed a circular medal, engraved with the seal of the United States. The inscription read, "Awarded by the President of the United States for outstanding contribution to public health." The officer's sunglasses no longer hid his eyes. They'd slipped just enough for Marcus to see the realization flood in. Marcus met his gaze and didn't blink. "Now," he said softly, "do you still want me to empty my pockets?" The older officer's jaw flexed, his voice catching somewhere between authority and embarrassment. "That doesn't change protocol," he muttered, but the words landed with less force than before. Marcus could almost hear the gears grinding in the man's head, calculating the damage if this incident went public. Not the damage of injustice itself, men like him rarely thought of that, but the damage to a career, a reputation, a department that already lived under a microscope. The younger officer shifted uncomfortably, his gaze darting from the medal to Marcus's face. "Is that the Presidential Medal of Freedom?" he asked, his voice quieter now, tinged with a respect he hadn't earned. Marcus closed the case slowly, like sealing a wound. "I received it 2 years ago," he said, his voice even, "for coordinating the national response to the Marburg virus outbreak. You might have heard of it, Hoff. I suspect you were more concerned about disinfecting your hands than reading the medical briefings." The older officer's ears went pink. Around them, the onlookers had stopped pretending to browse their phones. They were leaning in now, some recording more openly, others whispering to each other. The shift was palpable, a predator no longer fully in control of the hunt. Marcus didn't plan to humiliate them. He wasn't here for revenge. But he also knew that silence in moments like these was complicity. And complicity was something he had vowed to excise from his life, the same way he removed necrotic tissue from a dying patient, cut deep, cut clean. "I'm still going to need to verify your identification," the older officer said, though his voice lacked conviction. Marcus extended his driver's license and passport without breaking eye contact. The officer took them, retreating a few paces to whisper into his radio. The younger one lingered. "Look, it's nothing personal," he offered lamely. Marcus gave a humorless chuckle. "It's never personal," he said. "That's the problem. It's so impersonal, so routine, that people forget there's a human being standing in front of them." The rookie's eyes dropped to the scuffed tile floor. 2 TSA agents arrived, one of them looking irritated not at Marcus, but at the officers. "What's going on here?" she asked sharply. "Dr. Hale is cleared for boarding. His name is on our expedited security list. He's a keynote speaker at the World Health Summit in Geneva." The air shifted again. The crowd's murmurs grew bolder now, tinged with outrage. Someone muttered, "Unbelievable." Another voice, sharper, cut through. "Y'all just saw a black man in a suit and thought he was a threat." Marcus could see the older officer's Adam's apple bob as he swallowed whatever retort he'd been ready to fire. Instead, he handed back the documents. "You're free to go," he said stiffly. Marcus slipped them into his pocket without a word. But as he turned to leave, he heard the officer add, almost reflexively, "Next time, just cooperate from the start." He stopped mid-step. Slowly, he pivoted back, his voice calm but carrying the weight of an iron verdict. "Officer, I've spent my entire life cooperating. Cooperating when my college roommate's parents told him they didn't want a black man in the house. Cooperating when a patient's family demanded a white doctor instead. Cooperating when a security guard followed me through a department store for 20 minutes. Cooperation has never been the problem. The problem is the assumption." Silence blanketed the space. Even the overhead announcement, "Final boarding for Flight 187 to Geneva," seemed to hesitate before intruding. Marcus walked away, the crowd parting for him. But as he neared the gate, a man in a rumpled blazer stepped into his path. "Dr. Hale?" the man asked, breathless. Marcus paused. The stranger's eyes were wide, brimming with something that wasn't pity, but urgency. "I was there," the man said, "during the Marburg outbreak. My sister, she was one of your patients. She's alive because of you." His voice cracked. "I saw what they just did, and I'm so sorry." Marcus nodded once, the gesture small but sincere. "You don't need to apologize for them." "No," the man said quickly, "but I do need to tell people. This what just happened, and it can't just disappear into the air." Marcus's lips pressed into a thin line. He knew the man was right, but he also knew that for every viral video, there were 1,000 invisible moments like this, onion-recorded, unacknowledged, unhealed. The gate agent waved him forward. "Dr. Hale, we've been holding the flight for you." As he boarded, Marcus felt the weight of the medal in his pocket, heavier now, as if reminding him of the irony that honor and humiliation could fit so neatly in the same jacket. 30,000 feet above the Atlantic, Marcus sat in the dimmed cabin, staring at the clouds lit faintly by moonlight. He opened his laptop, not to work, but to write. Not a speech for Geneva, but a statement, a recounting of the incident while the details still burned fresh in his mind. He wrote about the grip on his wrist, the mirrored sunglasses, the way, matching your description, had become a catch-all phrase for suspicion wrapped in prejudice. And then he wrote about the moment the medal appeared, and how the officer's grip had loosened not because Marcus became less dangerous, but because the officer suddenly realized the man he was demeaning could embarrass him in a way that mattered. Marcus knew this story would travel far faster than the flight to Geneva. He also knew that it wouldn't end here, not for him, not for the next person who fit the description. As he typed, he remembered something his mother had told him when he was a boy. Sometimes the only way to fight the weight of the world is to make it feel its own heaviness. He intended to make sure it did. Geneva greeted him with a crisp morning breeze that smelled faintly of lake water and roasted coffee from the cafes lining the boulevard. But Marcus didn't have time to savor it. He had exactly one night to prepare his keynote for the World Health Summit, and the airport incident still gnawed at the back of his mind like a stone in his shoe. The conference hall itself was cathedral-like, glass walls stretching into the clouds, banners hanging from steel beams, each emblazoned with the summit's theme: global unity and public health. The irony did not escape him. Backstage, organizers buzzed like honeybees, checking mics, arranging schedules, guiding speakers to their slots. Marcus adjusted his tie in the mirror, the medal now pinned discreetly inside his suit jacket rather than displayed. He didn't wear it for applause. It was a reminder of work done, lives saved, and the cost that came with both. Just before he stepped up to the podium, the conference chair leaned in. "Dr. Hale, after your talk, there's going to be a press Q&A. The incident at the airport is already making the rounds online. Some outlets want your comment." Marcus stiffened. "Already?" The chair nodded. 2 different passenger videos went viral overnight. "They're calling you the doctor they tried to cuff." He exhaled slowly. That wasn't the headline he wanted, but he knew it was the one people would click on. The lights came up, and the applause swelled. Marcus stepped forward, scanning the sea of faces: diplomats, ministers of health, journalists, fellow scientists. He began not with statistics or graphs, but with a story. "I was detained yesterday," he said plainly. "Not at a border crossing. Not in a conflict zone. At an airport in my own country, on my way here. Why? Because I matched a description. Not of a known threat. Not of a wanted criminal. Simply, a description. And the description, it turned out, was skin deep." A murmur rippled through the room. He continued, "Public health is about more than medicine. It's about trust. It's about a society's ability to protect all of its members, not just the ones who fit a certain profile. And if prejudice can strip a person of dignity in seconds, it can also strip away trust in institutions that are supposed to serve everyone equally." He let the silence after that sentence linger, heavy and unbroken. Then, he pivoted into the heart of his prepared talk: pandemic preparedness, equitable access to vaccines, the need for transparency in crisis response. But every so often, he saw flashes of the airport in his mind: the mirrored sunglasses, the crowd, the little girl clutching her mother's hand. When he finished, the applause was thunderous. But as he stepped away from the podium, he felt a tug at his sleeve. It was one of the conference coordinators. "There's someone waiting for you in the VIP lounge," she said. "He says it's urgent." Marcus followed her down a long hallway to a quieter space, where diplomats sipped espresso under muted lighting. And then he saw him standing awkwardly near the window, hat in hand. It was the younger airport officer. Marcus stopped cold. "What are you doing here?" The rookie, not in uniform now, just jeans and a windbreaker, looked sheepish. "I didn't know how else to find you. I saw the videos. And I saw the comments. People calling me a racist, a thug. I didn't want to be that guy forever." Marcus crossed his arms. "You were that guy yesterday." "I know," the younger man said quickly. "I didn't stop it. I didn't speak up. I let Himi partner handle it, even though I thought it didn't feel right." He swallowed hard. "And I came here because I want to make it right." Marcus studied him for a long moment. "You think one apology erases the humiliation?" "No," the rookie admitted. "But maybe telling the truth can stop it from happening to the next person." Marcus felt a shift: not forgiveness, but recognition. The man wasn't here for absolution. He was here for direction. And Marcus wasn't sure yet if he wanted to give it. "Sit down," Marcus said finally. They talked for nearly an hour. The rookie admitted the department had already launched an internal review. The older officer, apparently, had doubled down in his official report, citing non-compliance and visible agitation as justifications. Marcus almost laughed at that. Visible agitation, he repeated. It's funny how certain emotions are only visible when they're on our faces. The rookie's shoulders slumped. I can tell them what really happened. That you were calm. That you asked for an explanation. That you weren't loitering, you were just standing near your gate. Marcus considered him carefully. Then do it. But understand this: when you speak out, you'll get pushback. Not from strangers on the internet, but from the people you share an office with. People who will tell you loyalty matters more than truth. The rookie met his gaze. I'm ready for that. Marcus wasn't sure if he believed him, but he respected the attempt. Later that night, Marcus returned to his hotel room, the lake outside glimmering under street lamps. He opened his email and found dozens of messages, some from colleagues, some from strangers who had seen the video. One caught his eye. The subject line read, "We need to talk about the medal." It was from a journalist he trusted, a woman who had covered his work during the outbreak. Her message was blunt. Your medal saved you from cuffs. But what about the people without medals? What happens to them? Marcus stared at the screen, her words cutting through the fog of the day. That was the real story. Not that he had been stopped, but that he had escaped the worst of it because of a symbol, a status one that too many people didn't have. He knew then that the speech he gave tomorrow wouldn't be the one the organizers had planned. The next morning, the main hall was fuller than ever. Word had spread that Dr. Marcus Hale would address the incident directly. Delegates from over 100 countries filled the seats, and media cameras lined the back wall like a row of watchful eyes. Marcus approached the podium with the medal pinned in plain sight, this time not as decoration, but as a visual question mark. I was given this medal, he began, holding it up so the cameras caught the light. Not because I am perfect, not because I am above scrutiny, but because I served my country during one of its most dangerous public health crises. Yet yesterday, in my own country's airport, this medal became the difference between handcuffs and boarding a plane. A murmur rolled through the crowd. Marcus set the medal down on the podium with a faint clink. Let me be clear, I am not here to talk about my hurt feelings. I am here to talk about the millions of people who will never have this medal, who will never have a platform, who will never have the privilege of their humiliation going viral. For them, there is no audience. There is no apology. There is only the silent, daily erosion of dignity. He paused, letting the weight of the words settle. In public health, we have a saying, prevention is cheaper than treatment. The same is true for justice. We can pour money into settlements, reviews, body cameras, but if we do not address the prejudice before it becomes action, we are treating symptoms while the disease spreads. Every face in the hall was fixed on him. I am asking no. I am challenging leaders in every country represented here to treat systemic bias as the public health crisis it is. It shortens lives, it limits opportunity, and it kills just as surely as any virus. He stepped back, the applause beginning tentatively, then swelling until it filled the hall. That afternoon, Marcus's words made headlines in multiple languages. Back in the United States, the younger officer's sworn statement aligning with Marcus's account was leaked to the press. Internal Affairs opened a formal inquiry into the older officer's conduct. The backlash was immediate. Some defended the officer, claiming he was just doing his job. Others demanded his resignation. The police union issued a statement calling the incident regrettable, but warned against trial by social media. Marcus ignored most of it. He had work to do. Requests for interviews poured in, but he was careful about which ones he accepted. He wasn't interested in being turned into a fleeting internet symbol. He wanted the conversation to last longer than the news cycle. 3 weeks later, Marcus was back in the U.S., standing in a small, wood-paneled municipal hearing room. The older officer sat across from him, still in uniform, though his posture was less rigid now. The chair of the review board read out the findings. The stop had been initiated without adequate cause and escalated unnecessarily. Disciplinary action was recommended. Before they adjourned, the chair turned to Marcus. Dr. Hale, would you like to make a closing statement? Marcus stood, his voice calm but steady. I'm not here to ruin a man's life. But I am here to remind everyone in this room that what happened to me happens to people every single day, people without medals, people without cameras recording. If this board wants to make a difference, it can't stop with this one case. It has to change the culture that made this stop possible in the first place. The chair nodded. Duly noted. As Marcus left the building, reporters swarmed him. One shouted, Dr. Hale, Do you forgive the officer? Marcus paused, considering. Then he said, Forgiveness is not the same as forgetting. I forgive when I believe change is possible, and I will watch closely to see if it is. That night, at home, Marcus took the medal from its case and set it on his desk. He thought about the question the journalist had asked in her email, the one about people without medals. He picked up his pen and began writing a letter, not to any government, but to every medical student he had ever taught. He wrote about compassion, about speaking up when silence is easier, about how titles and honors mean nothing if they are not used to protect those without them. When he finished, he felt lighter. The medal still gleamed in the lamplight, but its weight felt different now, not a shield for himself, but a tool for others. A month later, Marcus was back at an airport, different city, different terminal. As he waited to board, he saw a black teenager being questioned by two security officers. The boy looked terrified. Marcus stepped closer, just enough for the officers to notice him and the metal pinned to his lapel. Is there a problem here? He asked, his tone calm, but unmistakably firm. The officers exchanged a glance. No, sir, one said quickly. Just a routine check. Marcus held their gaze until they stepped back. The boy exhaled in relief. Marcus knew he couldn't be in every airport, every street, every store. But maybe, just maybe, moments like this could spread small acts of intervention, people watching out for each other. He turned toward his gate, the boy's quiet, "Thank you," following him like an echo. When the plane lifted off, Marcus looked out the window at the patchwork of lights below. He thought of all the unseen hands that had helped him in life, the mentors, the patients, even strangers who had spoken up in a crowd. The fight was far from over. But for the first time in weeks, he let himself smile. Because change, like healing, started one act at a time. And he was still here to keep it going. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.